This is Neil King for Random Acts of Cartooning, and I'm going to show you how to make a Kickstarter campaign. But first... Okay, so today's influence for this episode is Emily the Strange. Now, I've had this book for many years now, and because I'm a graphic designer as well as an illustrator, I just love this image. Now, Emily the Strange has a huge following, all kinds of different things, multimedia stuff. But this was, I think, the first episode of this kind of comic or graphic novel format. But I love this because it's kind of like Hello Kitty, but kind of gothic. And it's just a nice image, this very specifically, clean looking image. It's a 2-color book. And they really try to do something. There's some really nice types of images, and it's just a really nice graphic design piece. There's illustrations, obviously, that do a lot with the character. But what I think that they do best in this book is kind of set a mood and show that limited color and a very nice graphic design character. You can do a lot with that. But this Emily character, you can see they move them double spreads. It reads really nicely. It's very little text. When you just see this clean little font and you're bringing you through. And it's just fun. And I think this is kind of, to me, an all ages book. It has some different types of funny things that they're kind of going on. But it's not like an amazingly unique kind of situation, but I just love all of the things that they're trying to do with the character. And it's a high quality piece, and it's not easy to produce these types of books to really know what to do with some of them. I really like it. And it's probably all of like 3-4 inch by 4-inch book. It's a perfect little book, but I've had it for a long time. And if you like this type of design and character, I think you'd like this book. Okay, everybody, so here we go. This is the beginning of it's this little episode here that I was trying to put together. I'm about to do a Kickstarter project, a campaign, with a friend of mine, a music teacher, Cristin Introcaso. She's been teaching for over 20 years as a music teacher. And she came to me, it's a few years now, with this idea for a book. And she didn't even have necessarily a name for it. But she had this really fun little idea for it, and I was saying, okay, eventually I'm going to be able to get to this thing. So this is kind of the cover of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through the process of doing the book and even showing you some of the Kickstarter stuff that you kind of put into place and stuff. So this is what the cover would look like. This is the front cover here on the right-hand side and the back cover over here. But I want to show you first what we started with. So this was her book. And it's a bunch of pages, so if you see on the left-hand side, this is just a basic PDF of it she had sent to me. It was originally just about a 16-page document. Now from there, what I wanted to do was I started to try to think about what these characters would look like. I went through a few different things, and I settled on this idea of, instead of the characters being like little faces that you would look at with holding the flags of the note, I decided to do the thought, and I'm sure this is typical, most people see this when they're looking up at, you've probably had this thought, is when you look at telephone wires and you see birds on it, it kind of reminds you of notes, that they look like notes. So I thought I would take it into the idea of birds, whenever you hit a chord or anything like that, a little note comes off of it, and it's a bird that flies off of like the piano or something, and it leaves and goes on to each one of the measures. So this is a thought, and the book is, it's a fun little thing. It's in, Cristin did a great job with all the rhymes and all the stuff. She has a great little story. She really wanted to make a book that kids could understand the basics of just these notes and what they do and what they actually stand for. So this is just that part. So what I did next is I drew in Photoshop. I just did sketches of kind of what I thought each of the pages would look like. And this was one of the first things that I had done just to get for myself an idea of where this thing was going to go. Now, because I was in Photoshop, I just drew it with a pencil tool, and I just went in and I had some textures at the beginning. I always thought this should probably be a black and white book. And I think that by doing that, it's the idea of sheet music and all that stuff. And the only parts that are color are the parts of the birds, and they kind of look like pigeons to me. I like the idea. There's something about it being kind of set in kind of a city-like atmosphere, not like a suburb. And maybe that has something to do with like Sesame Street or stuff like that. That's how I always pictured it. But this is the next stage of it. So I was able to show this to Cristin, and I would say, hey, this is kind of where we're going. The idea of having, you'd see on one side, and I thought of these as all spreads. So if you look on the one side, you see the birds, they're talking to each other, but on the other side you would see the notes that they represent. So all through the story I'm going back and forth and showing all of these kinds of things. So you can see this is kind of the layout. So we've had multiple changes since this first one. This is like the first one we did. And then once she approved all these things and we had additions and stuff like that, then I kind of came in, I started having to draw the images. Now in Photoshop, this is where I would do most of the finishes with text. Pull the text in. I made all these symbols in Adobe Illustrator so they're nice and clean. I made all of these in Adobe Illustrator and brought them over. And the line art I made over here in Clip Studio Paint. I use it a lot for all my comics. So for example, these are just 2 pages and they're double page spreads. I think the book is a 7x10 book. So when you look at it, anything you're looking at on the screen, you see this as a double page spread. So these are all the separate layers. The birds there. You can see the line art for the buildings, and even the lines I wanted to make here because they definitely are a part of the whole look of the book. So I don't usually do even the gray work here in Clip Studio Paint, but I did for this one. And so what I do is I would export this out and bring it into Photoshop. And this is where, maybe I should show one more of this. So this is the other one. So this is what it looked like originally. Just a couple layers. I separated these guys, trying to do their tails in a specific way, backgrounds and all that stuff. But I brought it all in to Photoshop. And then I added some of the color. Now since then, again, like whenever I do some of these things, I've had to update certain things with the text, maybe the text too big or too small. And that'll be the next stage. I'll show you eventually what the book looked like when we sent it out to Barnes & Noble, their print on demand. But this is the stage when you have these kind of things done. There's multiple layers, and whenever you see these layers, you can see kind of how I'm dealing with all this stuff. You want to keep things as separate as you can in Photoshop. And that's what's good about it on layers. So you don't have to redo everything when if it was all one piece, that's when it becomes a problem. And but for me, this is kind of what I did, and I got everything in and try to make sure everything's spelled right and all that kind of stuff so that it looks nice. Right? So the next part of this is actually putting the book together. So once it's in, I use InDesign to take all of these pages and make it into a PDF. And then what we did was we used, like I was saying, Barnes & Noble, and that's the next part that I'm going to show you, just to kind of show you what the tangible image of the book is. Okay, so here's the book on your own measure. Now remember, this is printed through Barnes & Noble, their print-on-demand service. And it's great because you can get as many proofs as you need, and it's very inexpensive. And I think it's a really great use of the medium for especially bookmakers like myself who really want to see what this thing looks like in reality. So I've already marked up on some of the pages things that I want to have happen. In this specific one, I felt like these parts were a little bit too big, the text and everything. So by seeing it in this way, it's so much easier for me to say, okay, that font in reality, it's just a little bit too big. So I went back in eventually and I'll fix that after one more edit perhaps, and then do one more printout. But you can see it can make little notes, little things happen. You may change your mind. But this really helps me go through the book and see some of the things that I need to fix up or clean up. So this is what the book looks like. Okay, so the next part of this is the Kickstarter part. So we both agreed on everything, all the parts of the book, and the next thing we want to do is we would like to make a lot of copies of this thing. So I've done Kickstarters before, and I've done 3 successful ones before. So I understand the idea about trying to get it out into the public, but before you try to do these kind of things, it does cost a lot of money to get copies, to give things out, to kind of get it around and all that stuff. Also, Kickstarters help you with a lot of different things for advertising and everything. So this is a typical Kickstarter page. And when you're looking at these pages, there are parts to the entire thing that you need to kind of set up. So as I'm scrolling through here, they have some things, like there's the basics where you kind of fill out, the name of all the stuff. They need some type of an image that you would have on the top of the page. I made this in Photoshop. So they actually give you the 1024 by 576. Because it's for the internet, it doesn't have to be a very high resolution piece, but it's it's a nice little image. You can kind of get the idea. We have our name and everything on it, and then you have to create a video. Now my background is that I've done a lot of stuff with After Effects. I've used Premiere and I've done stuff like that. I use iMovie all the time for different things, so that was easily made. So it just kind of gives somebody the idea of what it looks like. We used, Cristin did a nice job with pretty much the narration for the entire thing. And it was all of about a minute long, just to kind of show people what it looks like. And it's on our Kickstarter page. And then you say your goals and how much you want to make and how long the thing is. That's your basic stuff. You have to create rewards. And when you have rewards, there are tiers to them. So I think it's always nice to have some type of a little graphic on there. So what I did was I made these in Photoshop also. So each one of the tiers that we have has some different note, the eighth note, the quarter, half, and the whole note. So you may create these little images. Again, these are pretty small. And then you need your story. So these are all the things about having graphics. I had to make some kind of a thing with the cover just so you saw it like this. This is our cover of the book. Put a little drop shadow on it. And then throughout the thing, we showed some of the pages. And Cristin showed some images of herself. She conducts a lot of different things from all different ages, for the community, for the schools. She does a lot of stuff. And I showed some of the books that I've made and just kind of going through here. Now, these are things that you also have to create in Photoshop. You have to be able to make these types of things. So I have some of the rewards would be some of these markers and stuff and stretch goals, but I made all that stuff in Photoshop. So for example, the bookmark page, like these are all separate little images that I made, and I just made them in Photoshop, and these are layers. started off with Clip Studio, brought them in, colorized them, cut them into this. So it's very easy for people to see what this is going to look like when they eventually get this stuff. So to me, it's a quick way for people to understand. And like I say, stretch goals and stuff like that. I like this idea of this little pigeon coming, looking down, and all that stuff. So that idea is how you kind of set your stuff up. The people part is who's involved, the two of us, the payment plans, and the promotion. There's a lot of promotion that's involved, and that's a lot of stuff we don't necessarily do through Kickstarter. We're on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and all the stuff. So we're hopefully going to push everything through that and do ads and stuff through there. I also do a little bit in Photoshop as well as After Effects and iMovie. When you have a piece that you want to do as a little like a little animation. So here's an example of this is a 720 by 720 image. And if you look in Photoshop, you can have a little timeline illustration, animation that is. And if I play it, you can see you can have the character come down. I'll try to keep this over here. And you can put the seconds on it for each one of these. If you've never done this before, it's a very useful little thing. You can export it as a little movie. So you can see how it works. Each one of these are layers, and you have multiple layers, and you just have them come on for the duration that you want to. So I use this in Instagram and YouTube and on Facebook to just tell people where it's about to happen. And these are the things that you can do really easily in Photoshop without having to jump in and use it in Animate, which I use also. All the Adobe products are really helpful and all these kind of things. So it makes it easy for me to kind of publish all this stuff. So anyway, this is where we are. We're just about to push this all out for everyone to see. And we're really excited and hope, whether you are a music lover or you know someone who's a music lover or you have a child who's just picking up an instrument and the ideas of this, or these as Cristin always is saying, like there's a lot of books about how to read for very young people, and this is the idea of maybe their first ideas of how to read music, and it's just a kind of a beginning, and it's light and fun, and hopefully everybody will enjoy it. So that's it for this episode, and I appreciate everyone tuning in. And again, keep your eye out for this Kickstarter, and we'll talk to you soon.